As all Bengal fans know, Paul Brown changed the game forever long before he founded their team. A brilliant and innovative mind, a masterful coach and teacher. When the team welcomes the inaugural Ring of Honor class Thursday night at halftime, Brown is again surrounded by three of his brightest students when their names line the east facade of Paul Brown Stadium. Anthony Muñoz, Ken Anderson, Ken Riley, Paul Brown.
The game's greatest coach and the grandest guy in the world, Paul Brown.
Hello.
Brown had the ability to find and foster talent like Anderson, a relative unknown from the small school of Augustana College. He converted Riley to a position he had never played. Muñoz's injury-stricken final 2 years at USC made him quite possibly the biggest draft day gamble of Brown's career. But the gambles always seemed to pay off for Brown, football's greatest innovator, with a laundry list of mid-20th century inventions that became early 21st century staples.
When you know the game, and when you study the game, you know the history of the game, and you look at individuals that have brought so many things and have made this game so great, I mean, Paul Brown is right at the top of the list. That face mask that protected my face from getting smashed up, Paul Brown. The playbook that sometimes you're too tired to open up and read, but you know it's a necessity, Paul Brown. There's so many things like that that he brought to the game.
The face mask, that resulted from an incident with the old Cleveland Browns when Otto Graham got kicked in the face.
Otto suffered a deep facial wound on this play, one that required 15 stitches to close.
My father decided that this wasn't how it should be. There ought to be protection for this. They came back with this extruded plastic bar, and that became the original face mask.
This is the helmet that Paul Brown had designed in 1956, complete with a radio receiver, coach to quarterback communication 4 decades before it was ever used in the NFL.
The greatest inventors in the history of the world, they've done something that's changed our everyday life. Inventors also were involved in the game of football.
He was, a legend, and he is pro football. He is the National Football League. And then to come here and have him be your head coach.
Whatever you do, don't put it up and get us into trouble.
A kid from a Division III school that knew nothing and came here, and sometimes it was a little love-hate relationship.
You were trying to kick it high, weren't you?
Yeah, I was trying. I thought I was back there.
If you don't know where you are when you go on the field, you're in a tough position.
Can't even win when I have a good punt, huh?
One of his famous lines when you're not playing well, it's, "Well, Anderson, looks like this game's a little too big for you. Maybe it's time to find your life's work." But that's when I'm shaking and sweating when I heard that.
I'm primarily a teacher. And I think a coach has to be a teacher.
He brought the classroom to football. Everything that went with the classroom was what he brought over, including the playbook. When you lecture to a group of kids, you expect them to take notes. That's really what a playbook started out as, just note-taking.
It was usually like a history lesson weekly for us. See, we knew that he had the answers, and he knew the answers to every question he would ask us. Let's say we were playing the Buffalo Bills, and he would look at us and he'd say, "So who has that number 78 for the Buffalo Bills?" And I'd say, "Coach, I got Bruce Smith." And I knew he knew who had him, but that would lead to a story, and he would share a story about maybe his days at the Cleveland Browns or the Bengals or at Massillon.
We had good football players, but we had great guys. And if you look at the number of players on those teams that have become very successful in life, it's just the high quality character that they had, the self-motivating guys that we had, intelligent guys.
At the time, he was Bill Gates. Paul Brown transformed the game from a physical exercise to an intellectual exercise.
He assembled teams known for brains as much as brawn, but a common thread of his three disciples honored with him in the ring is their off-the-field work, what Brown called their life's work.
I'm glad you're going to meet our boys. I'm very proud of them. You'll find they're a typical, high-class, clean-cut bunch of young businessmen.
Anderson's resume is chock full, yet he has said his proudest individual honor is being named the NFL Man of the Year in 1975. an honor Anthony Muñoz also received in 1991. And Ken Riley gave back when he returned to his beloved Florida A&M as head coach and athletic director.
2nd and 5. Pitch is back. It was to Archie Griffin, who throws it back to Anderson. He has a man wide open, Isaac Curtis.
One of Paul Brown's greatest legacies from his 1950s innovations is the modern pass game, which morphed into the cutting-edge West Coast offense on the banks of the Ohio River.
All the things we talk about in terms of the West Coast offense, that's what Coach Brown ran at Cincinnati. The quarterback drop, the timing passes, the catch and run plays. That was Paul Brown's Ohio River offense.
Anderson became its poster child with back-to-back NFL passing titles in 1974 and 75. But Anderson was no systems quarterback. You could say his middle name was efficiency, and that showed when he led the Bengals to their first Super Bowl in 1981 as the NFL League MVP in a different offense.
He's thinking about it. Anderson is going to get in.
In my younger days, used to scout, and I would go out to see different players. Pete, my brother, was our scouting director. He found out about Ken Anderson from another scout in a bar conversation. And that was when we were first alerted to there was this guy who could really throw the ball in Augustana, of all places.
That was a great throw by Anderson. That hit him right between the 8 and the 6.
You know, there was no ESPN and the draft wasn't televised. And, you know, a bunch of my buddies and I, we went up to the college bar that morning and I got a quarter barrel of beer and I didn't have any money, but he gave it to me on credit with the thought I might get drafted. And about 4 o'clock, I got a call from Bill Walsh and that the Bengals had drafted me in the 3rd round and hang on the phone because you're flying here tomorrow.
We brought him in. And I had told my father what a great prospect we had coming in. Kenny went out the first day he was in, and he had the yips. All the Bengals people were there watching him, and he couldn't throw the ball. He couldn't hit the side of a barn. It was embarrassing for him and a little bit for me because I had really ballyhooed this guy.
Well, of course, you come to the stadium, and I think I had to go out and buy a suit real quick because I didn't own one. And you know, there was some media there. You know, I had never seen a mini camp before. You know, what is all this? You know, people want to talk to me from TV stations and newspapers in Cincinnati, and I think a lot of people says, where the heck is Augustana College and who the heck are you?
Kenneth Efficiency Anderson became the only player to win back-to-back passing titles in 2 different decades and is just one of 5 in history to win at least 4 passing titles.
The city of Cincinnati was right for me. You know, growing up in Batavia, Illinois, going to school in Rock Island, Illinois, and the city fit me, and I think I fit the city, and you know, I think we got along real well.
Anderson back to throw, looks, fires into the end zone, touchdown. Anderson is going to throw, and block, touchdown. Great throw from Anderson, outstanding catch from Collinsworth.
Kenny right now is probably the epitome of the NFL quarterbacks. To run the kind of offense that we're running right now, you have to be able to read defenses almost flawlessly.
The Bengals put this AFC title away.
Following his 16-year playing career, he spent 17 more years mentoring NFL quarterbacks.
Although I chose to live in warmer climates now down in Hilton Head, all my children and all my grandkids are still here. So we get back to Cincinnati a lot, and Cincinnati will always be home.
I watched Fred Dean against Anthony Muñoz. He's right there. Muñoz has his hands in front and then pushes him to the outside.
Most everyone heard of Muñoz coming out of USC in the run-up to the 1980 draft. He had everything you'd want in an NFL tackle, but his health remained a looming question mark. A slew of NFL teams took Muñoz off their draft boards.
If I'm not mistaken, I think more than half the teams had failed me in my physical coming out of college because of the injuries I had. But it took one team, and it was the Bengals that took a chance and drafted me.
My brother Pete and I were visiting with my father, and the Rose Bowl was on television. It was his first game since he was injured early in the year.
And I'll never forget, you know, especially getting hurt that first game my senior year. I rehabilitated my 3rd knee operation and played in the Rose Bowl. And that was basically it. That was my way of showing, you know, trying to take 4 years and wrap it into one football game.
We sat there watching, and he dominated the Ohio State player opposite him. we lost all concern about the injury that was supposed to make him questionable as an NFL player.
I had lunch with Jim McNally, who was the newly hired offensive line coach, and Pete Brown. They brought me in, and then they were the only team that physically put me through a workout.
He was so good that we began to laugh with each other because we knew that this was who we would take. He was going to be in just what we wanted, that he's going to be exceptional.
I'll never forget, I thought because my phone rang so quick into the draft, I thought it was probably a relative trying to find out if anything had happened yet. And I was ready to say, you got to get off, something might happen. And I picked it up, and it was the Bengals saying, can you hold for Coach McNally? And I was just like floored. I'm sure a lot of fans in Cincinnati were scratching their head going, what in the heck are they doing drafting this guy that can't stay healthy?
Knee injuries limit him throughout his career, and he played in one game his senior season. But Brown knew all about second chances and how bountiful they can be.
I spent 5 years out of football. In fact, the matter is I was fortunate to get back into it because Pete Rozelle made it possible for me to do so.
There are a great number of people in pro football, including myself, who would like to see Paul back with the game. He did so much for it.
Let go by the Cleveland team who wears his name despite leading the Browns to 11 straight championship games in the 1940s and 50s. Brown not only returned to coaching to show the pundits the game hadn't passed him by, but he started his own team, just a post pattern from Lake Erie on Cincinnati's riverfront. Using the same foresight that allowed him to lead the expansion Bengals to a division title in just their third season, Brown and his scouts jumped on Muñoz with the third overall pick and were rewarded with a record-setting 11 straight Pro Bowls.
He came in and he had the obvious dimensions that went with him, which were impressive.
Forrest Gregg was their new head coach in 1980. Taken over, he flew out to Los Angeles. Of course, being an offensive lineman, I knew who Forrest Gregg was. He was a Hall of Fame tackle from those great Green Bay Packers teams, and so I'm thinking this is a way to show him that my body's okay.
Forrest, being about 40 years old at the time, was not too far off from his playing days. He was a real physical specimen himself, and he asked Anthony to do a drill, and he said to Anthony, now punch me. But in this case, he ended up flat on his back, and as Anthony said, the first thing to hit was his head on the floor. That did not displease Forrest. He knew what he was getting from that moment on, too.
In 13 seasons with the Bengals, Muñoz reinvented the left tackle position with power, grace, and techniques that are still used to teach tackles today. After protecting Anderson's MVP blindside, Muñoz became the anchor of one of the most productive offensive lines ever. That stretch included the 1988 AFC Championship season and the team's second Super Bowl appearance.
Muñoz is so big at 275 pounds and so strong that when he took that inside, he said, boom, right to the ground.
In the final 6 seasons of the 1980s, the Bengals' rushing attack finished in the NFL top 5 while finishing first twice. Ever the athlete, Muñoz found time to also catch 7 balls, 4 for touchdowns, on the way to joining Paul Brown in Canton at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Sipe will go back into throw, fires out into flat, intercepted by Riley, down to the 35, the 30, may go all the way, he will, 10-5, touchdown!
The Rattler, Ken Riley's 65 interceptions to this day remain 5th most ever in the NFL.
He is so deserving. Not only should he be in the Bengals Ring of Honor, he should be in the National Football League Hall of Fame. He's got 65 interceptions, only 4 have had more. People with less are behind him and are in the Hall of Fame, and why this guy is not in, I don't know.
Another player Paul Brown took a chance on, Riley never played cornerback until the Bengals drafted him in the 6th round in 1969. A quarterback at Florida A&M, Riley became an icon as one of college football's most exciting quarterbacks and a Rhodes Scholar finalist.
We were at training camp. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd day we had been there. My dad was standing by watching the quarterbacks. My father walked up to him and said, Kenny, you go over there. And he pointed to the cornerbacks. He did not resent it because he realized that in this group of quarterbacks that we had, starting with Cook, there wasn't much of a future there for him.
You know, he was a college quarterback that converted to a corner in the NFL, which is a hard change to make. But I think he always saw from a defensive standpoint what the quarterback was thinking. And I remember, in training camp, he'll take Isaac Curtis aside after play. And, Isaac, I knew what you're doing. I could tell by your eyes. He worked with our guys to make them better. So just, the consummate teammate.
Riley used his signal-calling smarts to rack up interception after interception and batted away pass after pass with a graceful humility in a Bengals record 207 games.
I know how much this meant to his family that, people in Cincinnati have not forgotten him. And, you talk about a guy that making a success of becoming a college head coach, becoming a college athletic director, and then he retires and he goes back to his hometown and keeps working in the community. A very special person, not only player.
He passed away suddenly last year at age 72, and as his family ushers him into history Thursday, he gets the attention he never craved.
To get this from his own home team, this is his team, and to go in the first time around, he should have been here, to accept this honor for himself, but since he's not here, we're going to take it and we're going to live up to his name and the number 13. We're going to continue to do that as a family.
The bell is ringing. Ken Riley, Anthony Muñoz, and Ken Anderson join their old coach as football's greatest teacher convenes a special inaugural class.
More than, just the personal thought of being in the Ring of Honor, I think about starting to establish, a team of the Ring of Honor and the guys that, maybe some guys I played with, maybe there's guys that played before me, then guys that I played after me that I didn't get a chance to play with. Some of our video might be in black and white, some might be in color, but they'll still get a chance to check it out and see it.
I'm actually more excited about Wednesday night. We're going to get together and drink a few beers and tell stories. So that'll be the fun time getting the group back together. But get to go out on the field one more time with those guys, and we won't be in pads and we won't be in helmets, but just to go out there and look up in the stands and see fans and hear fans. If I cried, please don't show me.